Caught behind the Venetian blinds, try to reach for the city lights. This ain't where I belong. Hey, look at me, man, what I become.
Okay, so I just finished reading Gary Keller's The One Thing, and mind-blowing is probably an understatement for the whole experience. After digesting for a while, I think I have kind of a unique perspective on this whole concept that Gary puts forth. A mom's perspective and a woman's perspective. So I thought you guys might want to join me in my cozy reading chair to chat about it a bit. I've actually been hearing about the book for quite some time. It's a bestseller, and I was really excited to get my hands on it, but it was a lot different from what I was expecting. So grab a cuppa, kick up your feet, and join me as we talk all about it.
Fell between the foam, pulling the stitches. Time to let go, so come what may.
Okay, so as somebody who really does enjoy living a simple life, the concept of this book was incredibly appealing to me. I mean, it's all about simplifying and niching in and focusing on one thing. So you'd think I would love that, right? Well, let's see. Okay, what you need to know is The One Thing was written by Gary Keller, but the concept behind the book dates back much further than the book because it's a business practice that him and his employees have been perfecting for years. Gary's one of the founders of Keller Williams Real Estate, which is, if not the biggest, one of the biggest real estate companies in the entire world. Hugely successful. You might say he knows a thing or two about running a business and making a business very successful. And in the book, he kind of gives a template and outlines exactly what he and his company do, and that is to focus on one thing and one thing only at a time. I know, revolutionary, right? Like, who could write an entire book about that? Well, I read through it and I was surprised and shocked by the things I was reading and a lot of the research that had been done that kind of built the foundation for this concept. And just so you know, like, I'm not gonna give any spoilers. I'm not giving away the entire book here because I really do think that you need to decide for yourself whether or not you wanna buy this book, whether or not it's worth your money. Spoiler alert, I think it is. But I found myself really kind of conflicted as I was reading it, and it was almost therapeutic to have to go through it step by step. So what do you need to know if you're considering reading this book? First of all, it's pretty short. It's only 223 pages, and the pages are small, short, simple pages. You'd think I could read that in an afternoon, right? Wrong. It actually took me over a month to read, and not because it had difficult language to understand or it was some literary masterpiece. It's not. It took me that long because I kept having to stop and think. Stop and assess my own life. Stop and philosophize about whether what he was saying was really actually true and doable. Stop and figure out if this way of living was actually even possible for a mother. A mother of 6 kids, no less. If you're new to the channel, I have a large family and life is crazy. Because frankly, this book of life advice was written by a man, a father of 1 adult child. And can I just say that at first his advice and what he was saying was really grating and annoying. For example, one of the first chapters knocks the idea of multitasking. He basically says, if you are a proficient multitasker, you are not going to be successful at life. And anybody who has realized great success in their life was not a multitasker. Wait, what? That is literally the opposite of what I've always believed. It's also the opposite of what I've always practiced. I mean, as a mother, if you can't multitask, your children will die. That is not an exaggeration. If you can't be in a swimming pool watching all of them at once and making sure none of them are drowning, you're in trouble. You need to be able to make supper while helping them with their homework, or they may not graduate. And if you're helping them with their homework and you're not cooking for them, they're not going to eat. And then they starve. And you can't focus completely on like cleaning your house or organizing without paying attention to your children, because if it's anything like my house, there are things that happen when you are not paying attention to them. So as a mother, Multitasking is just a way of life, right? By the way, even if you're not a mom or if you're a woman and you know what I'm talking about, please give a thumbs up below so I know there's some solidarity out there. So, coming from the position that I'm in, to hear a man who is not a primary caregiver, I'm gonna guess, or else he wouldn't have built this major corporation. Well, his advice of having like singular focus on your goals is really hard to take. Because when you decide to focus on like laser focus on one thing, maybe in your career, your personal life or something like that, guess what? Somebody else is going to have to pick up all the balls you dropped. And usually, it's the mama. So let's be frank, even during this pandemic time, how many moms had to cut back on their work hours or even quit their jobs altogether to stay home and focus on helping their kids through online school? Not many men quit their jobs to do the same thing. And if one of the spouses is devoting like 10, 12 hours a day to their job, oftentimes the other spouse is the one who's going to have to run the kids, organize the house, do the grocery shopping, do all the million little things that you are not doing. So it's an interesting concept to say you need to narrow down and focus on one thing at a time, because you can only do that if you have an incredible support system behind you. So needless to say, I nearly threw the book in the trash after a couple chapters, but I decided to stick with it, and actually, I'm really glad I did, because I learned a lot. So as I began to read more and more, and I looked into the evidence and the studies that he was quoting, I came to the realization that what he said actually was true. The people who are the most successful at life, whether that's personal or business, really are the ones who focus on one important thing at a time. And as a chronic perfectionist, overcommitter, always yes girl, I am realizing more and more that the way I live my life is not a healthy way to live your life. If you didn't know, I actually got really sick this year. I got so sick because I was so burnt out and stressed. I have another video that goes into all of that I will link for you if you want to know that crazy story. But at that time, I realized I needed to make some life changes and stop saying yes to everybody. I just didn't really know how to go about doing that, how to say no in a polite way, how to set my priorities a little straighter, and frankly, how to stick up for myself and protect what was important in my life. I mean, why did my husband and other loved ones in my life get to focus on their one thing and their most important life goals, and I didn't? And through reading this book, I realized that the only thing stopping this process and stopping me from realizing my goals was me. Okay, so how about you? Are any of you watching in that place in your life as well, where you just don't know what to do? You're stressed, you have anxiety, you know that you're not living the dream, but you just don't know where to start. If that is you, I can so relate. And I really honestly think that you would get a lot out of the one thing. I really think I am better equipped now to kind of shut out the periphery and what I don't want to let in and focus on what I do. And by the way, this idea of focusing on one thing doesn't mean you're going to be a neglectful mother, okay? So one of the most practical tips Gary has is time blocking. So the idea of time blocking is to block time as early in your day as possible, about 4 hours or so, to really work on your important life goal. So for you, if that is writing a book, a really important project at work, if it's going to school or taking a course to train and level up in your career, whatever it is, you block that at the beginning of your day. Maybe it's something different. Maybe it's focusing on your health because your health has really slid. So that, it's working out and focusing on your nutrition. Whatever it is that's the most important. You focus on that and you block everything else out. So you don't check your emails, you turn off your phone, you don't answer your door, and you let people know, I am working right now. I am not available. Unless it's a life or death emergency, I'm not available. And then you've got time the whole rest of your day to pick up the pieces of everything else, to run your kids to their sports games and activities, to have dinner with your family, to go on a date night with your spouse. You've got loads of time. And the idea behind time blocking is that when you get the most important thing over and done with in your day, the rest kind of falls into place. And what Gary mentions you need to ask yourself each and every day is, what's the one thing I can do today that will make everything else either easier or unnecessary? Okay, so you kind of have to be creative in what that is. And that's not just a question to ask for today, but then you start asking that question and expanding it out. What's the one thing I can do this week that by doing it, it will make everything else easier or unnecessary? What's the one thing I can do this month, this year, in the next 5 years? And you make bigger and bigger goals. So what did I do? I started trying to implement this. So I often would schedule morning appointments like the dentist or going to the gym or a business meeting or something like that. I would often plan them in the mornings thinking I was being more productive. But then actually what happens is the important things I wanted to work on, like my YouTube channel, for example, would just get scattered throughout the rest of the day and it would take me forever to get things done. So I've started to change it so that anything I need to schedule or book is actually scheduled in the afternoons. And in the morning is just me working on my one thing goal. And my kids and my husband just have to be understanding of that because frankly, I have been a stay-at-home mom now for 15 years. I have sacrificed 15 years of my life to be solely devoted to my family. So I definitely think that it's a fair ask for me to say, okay, it's time for some other goals. It's time for some other things that I need to be working on that are also really important. So I'm kind of oversimplifying the book. It's obviously more complicated than that. And before I go on with something else I really want to talk about from this book, I will mention that this book is linked below if you wanted to purchase it for yourself, whether a hard copy or an electronic version. I do actually really highly recommend it, but I actually want to talk about what I think is the most profound part of this book, and that is that it has you working through your life vision or the purpose for your life, which is unique to you. So one would think that with the different things I've done in my life, that by the age of late 30s, I would kind of have a handle on what my life's purpose and vision for my life is, right? Wrong. I've never actually taken the time to sit, really chew on it and think about it, and neither had my husband Andrew. So I think the best part of the One Thing book is that it does offer free printables on their website that you can go on, and it's like workbooks that you can work through as you're reading the book and answer the questions for yourself. So like I said, it took me so long to read the book because I kept having to stop and think and try to apply it to my own life. So I had Andrew do the homework and myself as well, and we both discovered kind of the purpose and vision that was unique for our lives. And both of us were actually really different, by the way, which is okay, opposites attract, right? And I discovered that my kind of general vision, like large, big picture vision for my life, is to change other people's lives for the better from my own place of quiet and solitude. Now, I already kind of knew that through my YouTube channel, I really wanted to inform people and help other people live their best life. You know, living on less, that's the purpose behind my channel. All about kind of meeting your financial goals and cutting back so you can have a more peaceful life. So I already knew I wanted to kind of help people and change other people's lives. But the quiet and solitude part was what I really hadn't been focusing on. So you may not be able to tell from the other side of the camera, but I actually am an introvert. And I'm a true introvert. I'm not, I sometimes need time to myself to recharge or whatever. I'm probably on the extreme end of things where I need hours and hours to myself every day to be the best version of myself. So that means that whatever job I have, I'm the best version of doing that job if I'm doing it with no other people around. That sounds so antisocial, and a lot of people that know me well, when they see me in a social setting, they can't tell the anxiety I'm having. I'm kind of a social butterfly. I can hide it really well. I can hide the fatigue and the stress that I'm under, usually fairly well. And I always felt a lot of kind of shame and judgment over the fact that I was happiest when I was alone. Like there was something wrong with me that needed to be fixed, and what was causing me to always want to flee and be alone? You know what? It's just who I am. So my vision for my life, I need to find a way to help other people without being around other people all the time, if you know what I mean. So what I've discovered is when I'm cooking meals or baking for someone else who is going through a rough time, I can do that job better when I don't have all of my children around me interrupting me constantly. Does that make me a bad mom? I don't know, maybe. But if I can get that work done while they're at school and I'm by myself, I'm a better version of myself and I'm doing a better job. If I can do filming and writing to help somebody else out from the quietness and energy I get from solitude here at home, then that is awesome. Then I have helped somebody else, and I don't need to feel like I need to have a crew of people around me in order to do that. So that's just kind of the general vision I figured out for my life. And as I said, my husband's is very different. And if you read this book and do the worksheets that are available on the website, you're going to have a very different answer as well, because the way they have you figure it out is quite different and very unique and surprising and just so incredibly helpful. And then the idea is to take that broad vision for your life, write it out, slap it somewhere where you can see it every day. And then when you are focusing on your one thing that you're going to do today, it has to align with that vision for your life. So all that being said, I'm actually incredibly excited about what I've learned from Gary in this book. What started out as me wanting to throw a book out and kind of man shame turned into something really good for my life. And I'm thrilled about what I'm gonna be able to do, maybe where I can take this YouTube channel once the kids finally start going back to school. Please, Lord, let the schools be open this fall. But most of all, I'm curious to hear from you guys if you've read this book or if you want to read this book. Like maybe you go away from this video, you read the book, and come back and tell me in the comments what you thought and if you liked it, if you think it's gonna make a difference in your life. Now, if this is your first time here, I'm sorry I didn't do much of an introduction. My name is Jenn Least and I live in rural Ontario, Canada with my large family. And if you're interested in seeing more content from this channel, please subscribe, click the bell notification. And I am, as usual, gonna put some videos to the side that I think you might be interested in watching if you haven't seen them yet. And I can't wait to see you all in the next video. For the least, this is Jenn.